Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Ball Watching. We are on the score sheet today, this morning, being back in the W's, got to double check now, Justin, because it's embarrassingly low at
Fifth.
this point, but our fifth win of the season in MLS play. I got sixth overall, or I guess no, we have the Leagues Cup as well, but I was going to factor in CONCACAF Champions Cup. Either way, not a lot of wins, but we got one yesterday against the number one team as of right now in the Western Conference. Justin, the vibes at City Park were back. A lot of people saying back, or it's some derivative of us being back yesterday. What do you think?
I'm upset, Jake, in the fact that is one of our few and far between day games. You and I talk about it. I mean, the players also appreciate it. Like we've been kind of teasing our interview that will probably drop this week, but even the players appreciate a day game. And it's something you just don't see enough. And with the weather yesterday, I mean, the vibes were high. It was a sellout crowd. The pitch was rocking. It was an incredible time. And I just wish we had more day games. That's the only thing that I'm sad about, but it was an incredible time for the time that we were there.
Agreed. And by the way, for those, I think, keeping track at home on the day games thing, before we get off of that, Justin, producer Kevin brought up to us, I think at halftime, that we are at least undefeated this season in day games. I'm just verifying, because we only had two, by the way. This was the second of two. The other one was back in, I believe, April against, I'm just looking this up now, I think it was Portland.
Right.
No, it was Austin. It was Austin. We played Austin in April, and that match was one of our I think, W's that we already have this season. Yeah, the 1-0 W on Sunday, April 14th at home here. So we are 2-0 in day games. And if you are the schedule maker, if you are anyone at City, look at the data. This season, 2-0.
I don't think it's their choice, because I think they'd appreciate these day games as well. I just am very confused, Jake. We were the only MLS game yesterday. I understand it's a holiday, but if you're the MLS, own that holiday. It's before NFL kicks off. This is obviously the first big weekend in college football. Just own that Monday and just stack the days with games. Do a little 11 a.m.er on the East Coast, and then work it all the way to a night game that you have out in LA and make it like El Tráfico. Just own Labor Day. But quickly, Jake, before we get into the highlights, lowlights, starting 11, all of our predictions, everything, I want to do a quick shout out to two of the fans that we saw at the pitch. One, Andrew, teacher and coach in the Parkway School District. It was awesome to connect with him, talk a little sports betting as well, which his parlay did hit. And then also Liz. She's a listener and a local hero as a nurse in the St. Louis. And she says that she likes to listen to us during her shifts. Kind of makes it go by a little quicker. So happy we can help her out with that. But to anyone, if you see us at the pitch, at the game, anywhere around St. Louis, please come and say hi to us. We love it. We love talking soccer with you guys and just meeting everybody. So we appreciate it. Shout out to Andrew and Liz.
So, Justin, let's get into some of our thoughts here, and we'll start with the 11. And again, let's not factor in the performance yet. We'll talk about the performance, but let's talk about your thoughts as the 11 was rolled out. I think, us included, a lot of people had thoughts on the fullback situation, given that we swapped out both fullbacks. Otherwise, I think the whole team was unchanged. Actually, Indy got the start over Thor, which we talked about on the show before. But Horn comes in for Reed at left back, and we get Nerwinski at right back for Totland. So, again, let's not factor in the game yet to our minds. I think, obviously, let's just call it what it is. Everyone was super worried about Jake Nerwinski being slotted in right back, myself included, though I wasn't going to come out and be overly negative about it because, in the past, you've seen him be able to do and fill in on parts like this, especially in the early part of last season. So, I'm always up for change. And I think when you look at what Hackworth's done with this team, he's given starts to guys that need games and, tried to build confidence of those that might not have as many minutes. So I was open to it. And we were both open to Horn, obviously. I think being a very good offense we were coming up against, I think going with two more defensive-minded fullbacks, probably a pretty smart move, in my opinion. Do you think Hackworth was considering that?
Absolutely. And I do think when we think about that, yes, it's been a absolute just rotating door in our fullback position. I do think that Giannis Horn is going to be a guy that kind of comes in and is going to own that role going forward. However, I mean, I don't think he really had it all there in the game yesterday. So then that's where I like to see with that Hackworth is also making in-game changes. Put in Jaden Reed in the 65th minute, who ended up getting our assist, which we'll talk on later. So I think that was a perfect call by him. Didn't need to take Nerwinski out because we have plenty of highlights from yesterday. I think we kind of joked before the game. You're like, I'll take the over 3.5 slides by Jake Nerwinski because he does like to get on the ground, but I don't think he did it in a time period yesterday where it was in the wrong position. I think every time he went down to the ground, he won the ball and it was correct. And I thought he did well defensively. So I think, Yeah, it was definitely, we were like, oh boy, now there's for sure going to be a lot of goals. And I think we even talked to Andrew about that once we saw Nerwinski in there. I thought he did a great job yesterday.
And on cue, as we get into the game, the first thing we wanted to talk about here was the goal that we scored in the first 10 minutes. And courtesy of, people forget, obviously it was Teukert that got on the end of that and got the goal on a follow-up shot to his own and some good buildup around it. But Jake Nerwinski steps up to win an errant pass from their goalkeeper, McCarthy. One times his pass. It's perfect. And I want to talk about it if you're pulling this up, Justin. The touch from Nerwinski on that, just about to bounce as it meets his foot pass from McCarthy, that if that pass was anywhere off where he ended up playing it, this doesn't happen, in my opinion. Nerwinski plays it right into Indy's feet. Indy's able to turn with space, feed it into Hartel, who lays it off for Betcher. Betcher then is able to lay this off, a little bit of no-look pass to Teukert, who gets slide blocked on. Teukert, though, follows his shot after the deflected block and then is able to coolly slot it home back post on McCarthy. A no-doubter finish and a lot of composure on that finish, which is exactly what you bought him for. I thought it was a well-worked team goal, and it starts with Jake the Snake.
So that's what I'm going to say, Jake. For this goal, it does not happen if Jake Nerwinski does not step up right here for anybody watching on YouTube and a perfect one-time pass into Indy right there. That this goal, if he takes a touch there or he doesn't step up and he's sitting too far back, not high enough with the rest of the guys pressing, this is a perfect example of where the press can easily fall apart. If Jake was not in a good position, LA's going the opposite way. We're already high up the field. I'm glad to see that he steps up, wins that ball, plays it right into Indy. And then the next thing I want to talk about with this goal, Jake, the composure of everybody after that. So it goes from then to Indy, into Hartel, and then into Betcher, and then a layoff again into Teukert. And it's just, Teukert into Hartel, whatever. Everybody just being able to have the composure to play with this at the top of the 18 is not something that you've seen from this team. And unfortunately, and I'm going to say it, Jake, maybe kind of that I would say, sorry, I'm having trouble sharing screen, maybe a controversial discussion here, but I don't think we score that goal with Klaus. I think if he gets that ball, if Indy lays it into Klaus is head down trying to rip a shot and does not have the same composure. You already know that we did not have the composure when it came to Sam. I think Sam would have done the same thing too. And that's the difference in this team right now is these guys are being able to connect with each other and have the composure around the top of the 18 to not be like, oh, we're in the 18, we got to rip a shot off, and just bouncing the ball off each other. And I think Thor's even been able to do that this season so far. But I'm going to say if Klaus is in the game there, we don't score that goal.
Either way, let's just give credit where credit's due. That's every one of our front four touched the ball on that sequence there, including Jake Nerwinski starting it off. So from Indy into Hartel, into Betcher, into Teukert, and then Teukert on the follow-up with the cool finish. That's, you basically bought and replaced your entire front four, besides obviously Indy there. And a couple of those are loans as well. But to have them do exactly what you brought them in for, it's probably a signal to Lutz and Co. that these guys are doing exactly what we brought them here for, and it's production. And you already mentioned, I think the key word of the day is composure. And composure we also saw later on in the game as well for more of those experienced guys that kind of put the foot on the ball, take the buzz out of the game a little bit. But to get that finish so early on a team that's number one in the Western Conference, great start for the boys. And then you also see Berkey come into the game as well. You know, defensively, it was also a tough game. I mean, Galaxy, we battled them, absolutely. They did not just dominate this game. Even possession-wise, we had better of it overall. But there was waves as well. And the Galaxy found some decent opportunities. The one big one, obviously, they did finish away, and we'll talk about that. But Berkey was up for the challenge as well. Quietly, I think had a really solid game. Nothing world-breaking there. There was a pretty difficult save on a deflected shot. But I think for the most part, the chances that got through, Justin, let me know what you think, pretty, level with expectations that Berkey should make every one of those saves.
This is one of those, but not only, that's the one I kind of took a note down here as well, Jake, that yes, I don't think there was any where he shouldn't have made the save and he did. Like, it wasn't a worldy save on any of these. I think that tip over the bar on the one that got deflected and was curling down was impressive. But this is a game that it's almost, we go back to it. Like, right when we talked about it last game, when Berkey has one blunder, it really sticks out. He was solid again this game. And this is the Berkey that we've come to know and love. And I think that he did a great job this game, not only with his hands, but with his feet as well. And I think directing the guys as well, this is a game that it's going to be tough when you have Marco Royce coming back down at you. And he was in the right position to make these saves. And not only did he make the save, he either held onto it or parried it completely out of play. So there wasn't even a chance of a rebound shot. So I thought he did well and very well in that sense.
Very strong saves, agree. Either he held on to it or he got that ball out of danger. I can think about that on the one shot we mentioned in the 16th minute, again on the Payne still deflected shot that he just tips over the bar. Impressive stuff. Half hour in, I'm thinking to myself, we got the goal early. I do feel like we kind of took the foot off the gas even just a little bit and let the Galaxy kind of crawl their way back into the game a little bit more. I felt in the half hour mark, Jake the Snake obviously having a great game, winning tackles, being super strong in the ball. I'll caveat, I don't love what he brings, or Horn for that matter, moving forward as much. He was doing some overlaps, which was nice for Indy to free up some of those crosses. But him moving forward for me is a lot of like dinking the ball over the midfield line and trying to hope that Betcher's going to be able to hold it up or one of his wingers comes in to take the ball. But we were a bit hemmed in at the half hour mark when I was watching us. But otherwise, we're playing super compact. Our lines, our three lines at times were 20, 30 yards apart and really focusing on a mid block, I would call it. And the mid block being anywhere around I'd say like look at the half line and stretch yourself maybe 10, 15 yards both directions. We had most of our players in that zone. And in doing so are forcing the Galaxy to go around us or to look for spaces in the half space. So kind of like not the wide, but not the middle either, somewhere right in the middle where you can find a Royce, for example. And that's where they were looking for success. And they had it sometimes as well. But I think we made it really hard for them to really get a chokehold in this game. And I don't think they really ever got fully established.
And I think that's one of those things. Yes, I would say high praise for the team and the way that we were able to defend them. And I think Durkin did a great job kind of navigating that as well with Royce and making sure that he had Royce in his pocket the entirety of the game. One thing that I'll also say, Jake, is it's a huge, I guess, bonus or bump for us is that Ricky Puig it was not in the game either. He had a yellow card suspension. I think that's the guy that when they are struggling to find the game, he finds the game for them and is able to get on the ball. So I think that was helpful for us. I do agree. After the goal, it feels like we kind of took the next 30 minutes of that half are pretty boring, in my opinion. I don't think there was a whole lot of highlights and lowlights. I do have a low light for Toyert in the 38th minute. Just a lazy yellow, grabbing the guy. LA's trying to start a counter, and I usually appreciate when the guys try to take the air out of that to make sure they can't get away. But it was in LA's half and just grabbing him by the jersey just because he can't get the legs already in the 38th minute. So that was a little bit of a low light. But the one highlight that I'll end it on, Jake, is in the 45th plus 2 minutes or so was the Leuven free kick. And I think we've talked about it time and time again, but that is just a specialty that he has to be able to get the ball up over the wall and forcing their goalkeeper to make a tough save right before the half. Otherwise, we could have been up 2-0.
Agreed. Going at halftime, I think all things considered, a successful half for sure, but by no means are we out of the woods yet. And I think that was probably the message that Hack gave the team. But you come out of half, you should be feeling energized. I'm sure he made some tactical adjustments here and there. Not that the game was slipping away from us, but it was definitely evening out. And we knew that one goal was never going to be enough to defeat the Galaxy. And you get a minute into the second half. LA Galaxy have some strong attacking players. A guy like Gabriel Pack, guys like Joseph Payne still, largely went for the most part unnoticed yesterday, even. And Marco Royce as well. But when called upon, they have that good bit of quality. And very early on, dragging Heap.
Is that your sound?
I just muted myself. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
That's weird. I was saying Gabriel Pack drew Hebert way into the corner. And instead of just like kicking off his shins and trying to get the corner, he combined with a teammate, kind of kicked it back, but continued his run into the box where the ball follows him. It arrives at Painstill's feet, I believe, or their new sub. They had just made it halftime. And again, Peck is continuing his run, gets the ball perfectly laid off for him as Kessler gets lost in that mix as well with his runner. And Hebert just can't get close enough to put a body in or put a leg in as he goes for the finish. And I'd say it's a pretty well-worked goal and well-worked from the Galaxy to pull and tease our center backs away from their natural positions and make them compete in kind of a fitness race. Who has the speed to find the position? And they did.
At this point in the defensive action, like right here where Hebert is, this is great defense. Bringing him to the corner, making him spin out. Right here is when you got to do a little bit better. Just keep your eyes on Hebert the entire time, right next to Peck. As they kind of fight and jockey for position to get into the 18, if you're Kyle Hebert, you got to make sure that if he gets the touch there, which is fine, good ball, you got to knock him off the ball there, at least not be able to get a shot off, or you got to be close enough to block it. And that's where I think it kind of fell off for Hebert. Not something that I expect Rome to save. He could have maybe, but that was point blank, near post, upper 90. So it's a tough goal to give up, but it's more frustrating, Jake, that it's right when the second half started. Now, I would say another thing that was a little upsetting for me was that I was still in the concourse talking to some friends, like, oh, I need to get back to my seat. As I'm walking away, I hear them say, oh, and he shoots and he scores. I would love to be able to have a TV on the concourse where I can see this happening, because I had to rewatch it this morning. It was the first time that I saw the goal.
Yep. No, actually, same. I was walking back as well. I heard the crowd because we were next to the Galaxy section, and they were loud enough, and so I knew who had scored that goal. Largely, after that, the game went pretty quiet for the next 20 or so minutes, where Durkin had a pretty tame shot. Hebert had a really tame shot, and then we get back on the board, and that is in the 68th minute, courtesy of Hartel, who, my word, what a finish. He is now being bolstered by a couple of subs. We've got Klaus, Thor, and Reed that came on for Betcher, Indy, and Horn. Timely subs. I like that. That's a long enough shift to make a good impact. It's over 25 minutes plus stoppage time. And all three of those guys come on. So I like Hack. It's 1-1. We're going to go for this. Obviously, we have to at this point, but I like the attitude. I appreciate that. Reed attempts across. It gets cleared, but Leuven gets on the recovery after they try to break and they make an errant pass. Leuven gets it, collects it, recycles back to Reed, who now has more space on the left side, and plays a pinpoint cutback cross for Hartel, who's arriving kind of, maybe just outside the 6, maybe on the PK spot. And he does one of those finishes where it let the ball do the work. It's coming across his body. All he has to do is sort of just nod it on to the far post. It's the momentum's going to take it there anywhere. So you just got to get a little bit of the end of your boot on it and just keep it going that direction and add a little more pace and maybe a little more height to it. And that's exactly what he does. It's perfectly placed. McCarthy has no chance, and it's bang, bang, Reed into Hartel for a beautiful finish. And again, that's what you buy quality for. Yeah, you're buying a little bit older, and there's risk with that, of course. But this guy's been doing it. He's been cooking in Germany for a long time now. When this ball gets there, he's not going to freak out.
That's what I was going to say, Jake, on both of this, on the ball in and the finish. The key word is composure again. Jay Reed, look at this. When you're looking at this, it's not a very visible. He could have just whipped one in, had height, tried to find Klaus or anybody on the back post looking for this. No, he's looking for it. He's composed, and he's finding Hartel, who is also finding a perfect little pocket of space. That's where you see that's not something that you can teach. That's just playing soccer at a high level for a long time. And like you said, the composure with the touch right here, inside of the foot, just let it kind of keep it moving along to the far post. You don't need to try to cut it back right into the side netting. Great finish, great team goal.
Agreed. I mean, great team goal. I thought both goals were very strong, very positive for us. Didn't have to rely on set pieces, which is always a plus, but a good thing to also have in your back pocket as well. We got to see Rasmus Alm return to action, coming on for Teukert as well. And then we saw Klaus, who I believe obviously got back on. I kind of just glossed over it already for him, but him coming on, I don't know if he had much, if anything, to do offensively for his entire shift. But that dude put in a 90-minute shift in the 30 minutes he was allotted on that field, playing defense, pressing, going up for aerial duels, being a beast on the ball and off the ball. I feel like I saw a new side of him yesterday. Not to say that he was never the best or never a good presser of the ball or he doesn't have that team attitude, but people have pointed fingers before, and I've definitely called him out for some instances of that. But for him to come in yesterday, not get necessarily a look in at all really on goal, which is where he thrives, he was so positive to me. He was a team. When we scored our first goal, Justin, you and I looked at the bench. He's clapping off the bench. Like, he's super excited. Guys, that's his competition. So, like, for him to be a team player like that, again, that's the expectation, but I don't know if we've always seen that from him. So I just want to call it out. I loved that, and I loved his work rate yesterday coming in because he did put in the hard yards, winning fouls, and letting us breathe in the last 15, 20 minutes because there was a lot of time we were hemmed in.
Yeah, we talked about that. I was intrigued to see how he was going to fit back into this team. And coming on the 65th minute, that's what we talked about with Andrew when we were at the pitch. If you're going to bring on these subs, you got to give them enough time to make a difference. And that's what I don't think that we saw with Carnell. He was bringing in Sam or somebody in, like the 75th, 78th minute. It's like, all right, go out there and do something for 12 minutes. And I don't think that was the appropriate way to do it. And now when you see this with Klaus and Jay Reed, you're allowing them enough time to be able to actually make a difference. And I think the most impressive thing here, Jake, is they came in the 65th minute. Jay Reed assisted on the goal 3 minutes later. That is a true difference maker that he was doing right there. And I think it was great to see him get some more time because obviously, like we talked about, I don't think Giannis Horn had it all day yesterday. And obviously, then once you bring on someone, it's nice to have an offensive player like Joao Klaus coming off the bench for your team and not looking to be like, oh, who are we going to throw in there? So it's going to be an interesting mix going forward, but in a very exciting way.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up another plus for me. It's just the bench. To know that we have that many options to bench. I'm not going to say any one of them, maybe besides Klaus, even Reed at this point, I'm really excited to see come in. But to know that they have legs and they used to be starters for us, like lock in starters. And now some of them are coming back from, fitness and injuries, of course. But to have firepower on the bench and just options where if we do have to dig into our bench, we can do it early and not have to worry about sacrificing too much quality. That is a luxury that we did not have last year. And it's a luxury that we do have right now. We haven't had this for most of the season, but we do have right now. And I think depth has been a pain point for a while. And we have, not to say fixed it, but we have done a lot to make it better and to really continuously challenge in a game and compete in a game, not when like the subs go on. That's like, oh, well, here we go. Who knows what's going to happen?
And I would say, Jake, that now kind of moving into the stats of it, with this team, I don't think we have a very high-powered offense. So does LA Galaxy. You don't see that in the stats for this. We had 11 shots. They had 10. And then on target, ours was 6 and theirs was 6 as well. That is extremely low. You can see that in a halftime for the LA Galaxy or for us. So it was kind of surprising in that sense. XG, they had 0.75, we had 0.68. So we just kind of thought all week that this was going to be a high scoring, very high powered offensive game. And it wasn't. And I am glad to see that, yes, we've been scoring a lot of goals recently with the newcomers, but we also have not been able to grind through games and close them out. And I'm happy to see that we close this out on the scoreline. However, I think you have a couple notes in here as well. We did not close it out or kill the game very well in the last 10 to 15 minutes when we have that lead. And it's still a little bit concerning because we've lost 20 points or so now. I forgot who had the tweet out earlier this week or the week before on games that we have been having the lead. We've had the lead, but then we either get a tie or a loss and we've lost points out. So I'm happy to see that we closed it out from the scoreline perspective, but I'd like to see a little bit more quality on the field to actually get there.
I agree. I mean, LA had one big chance. They finished it. Fortunate for them. We didn't even have any big chances. We made the most of the couple kind of half chances that we did get with Hartel and Toykert as well. But again, that's what those guys bring to this team. I thought it was a really, really even match. One that I was not expecting. If someone had just been dropped into that stadium, had never looked at the scores of this season yet, had never looked at the league table, I don't think they ever would have told you that we're sitting in 12th in the Western Conference and that they're sitting in first. It just looked like a very even matchup to me. And I think that's what was the most shocking, but maybe that's where we are right now.
If you were to just pull up the stats, I would have guessed that Houston played against Portland, just like a very just even keel, not very exciting or anything like that. It's not St. Louis versus the LA Galaxy, but hey, I'll take it from what we can get. So looking at their player ratings, Jake, I think in general, obviously, I think Berkey had a great game. I think Hebert and Kessler, I would give them more on the flat B range. Giannis Horn, B minus. Obviously, with coming out in the 65th, he just didn't have it. But I would say Jake Nowitzki, I'll give him an A minus. I don't think that he did anything that was extremely special, but we don't need you to do that, Jake. You're going in there, you're locking down defensively. We're not looking forward for you to go forward. The one special thing that he had was that one-time pass that led to our first goal. But overall, A minus for Mr. Jake Nowitzki.
Yeah. I thought Hebert had a pretty strong game as well. It was quiet. Him and Kessler were quiet, which is good. Boring is fine. Outside of the goal, I don't have anything to say negative about them, but not a whole lot to say positive. They just maintain and they manage, which is great. Nerwinski, I have a dual painted take on this. I want to say, I think that was of recent memory, his best match in a City kit, since I can remember. And the comments that he had post game about how much it meant to him and how much he'd been battling for this. We'll get to that towards the end here because I have some direct quotes from him. His mentality and the way he played last night was so different from what we've seen. He was so confident. He won basically every duel that I remember him being in. He was playing composed passes. He just looked like he belonged there. And I loved it. I'm so happy for him. I think that's amazing to have another option like that. And my other side to this is that I'm not overreacting either. I'm not okay. So let me temper this. I'm not thinking now he's all of a sudden the starting right back. I don't think he's just all of a sudden taking over Tolan. But what he did yesterday, in my opinion, should be what we expect from him. I don't think it was an amazing performance. I thought it was really solid, but that's because people are like, oh, he was not doing well in the minutes that we saw before. So I think that was an expectation. Like he needs to be able to do that and replicate that. I don't think it was like a world beater performance, but it was solid. And we're not used to that from him recently. So I'm kind of tempering it a little bit. Do I think that he's probably earned a consideration now in starting 11? Probably.
Yeah, I would say I think we're probably going to be going back to Totlin, but I will say it's nice to know that we have someone that we can rely upon if needed. And I think that's a huge little bonus for him as well, is the fact that, like you said, Jake, he has been not in the starting 11 and just continuing to grind and work hard and be able to, like, obviously Hack saw something in practice, like, hey, I think you're going to get the start this week, and to be able out to not just like absolutely poop your pants or like, oh my God, I'm back on the field again. And he just did a great job, and it was a solid job. I don't have him as my heart and soul juice player of the game. I'm actually going with Chris Durkin on this one. Stats wise, nothing extremely impressive. 90% on his passes, 2 out of 2 successful dribbles. I love the 8 out of 10 ground duels won. But I think the biggest thing, Jake, that's not on the stat sheet was that he was maintaining Marco Royce. I think he's a guy that allowed Leuven then to get forward and kind of float around and let Leuven be Leuven, which was where he loves to play. And I think Durkin was the one that is always kind of in Royce's pocket, following him around. And I think it went unnoticed from a stats perspective. But if you go back and rewatch the game, and you could find specific clips where he's looking and trying to find Royce when the counter is about to start.
I have someone for my heart and soul the team, Justin, but let's just pause and appreciate that we actually kind of have to debate this now, because earlier on in the season, there was like maybe 1, 2 people that we could constantly look at, maybe like a Leuven or a Klaus or a Berkey, really, or Tim Parker. But I mean, maybe even Durkin. We had a couple guys we always could consider, but like depending on the game, you would look at like 1 or 2 options max. And now I look at the 11 from yesterday. I was happy with a guy like Indy's performance. I thought he brought something good to the right wing. Even Leuven had a really quietly solid game yesterday. Nothing amazing, nothing spectacular, but it's almost spectacularly boring from a lot of these guys. But that's good. We didn't have that before this. But I will say my heart and soul of the team is Hartel. I mean, 1 shot, 1 goal, bing, bang, boom. This guy is bringing value and production in a place that we've needed it for a long, long time. He was a huge part of the first goal as well. 2 chances created on his own. And I think he also does a good job to take part in that mid-block press as well. He's not the guy that just kind of floats around. You saw Royce, shrugs the shoulders, maybe a little body language, doesn't really want to put in those hard yards. And he's an older, much more experienced and seasoned veteran with a lot of trophies and such. But still, for him to take part in that, believe in the team philosophy and the values and the way we're going to play the game, that's not a given. That's not a given, especially for a guy that's coming over that's had such success like Hartel has. So I believe in it. I believe in him, and he was my heart and soul of the team. But look at the 11, Justin. It was strong from the back to the front, all the way through the spine, just like our friends at Hoffman Brothers, who have one of the best spines in the game. They've got people from customer service, all their technicians, everyone you talk to from there is fantastic and passionate about what they do. They come out when they see you, they are willing to educate you and make sure that you understand things, and you can be dangerous in these conversations as well. There's no taking advantage of, which I feel like you do get from contractors sometimes. They're going to tell you straight. And if you want to know, you can sit down and get your red pen out and take some notes, because they're happy to glean on that with you. But Hoffman Brothers, our presenting sponsor of 2024. We're getting into fall now. Probably not too late, not too early to get your furnace looked at as we start to dip into the 50s and even the 40s here coming up. It's going to be a beautiful week of weather here in St. Louis, but it's always a good time to call Hoffman Brothers. So make sure you get them on your side at 314-664-3011 or visit them online at hoffmanbros.com. Justin, who else is hot? The boys are hot. We're back in the positive on the bets this week.
Yeah, we both did not predict a dub, which, I mean, to be fair, I didn't think that it was really something that I had in the cards. You predicted a 2-2 draw. I predicted a 3-2 L. Getting out of here with a dub, which actually right before the game, we looked at it. We actually turned to be a favorite when it came to betting. But you turned into some green money as well with the high scoring half of the second half, -110. Obviously, we had 2 goals total in the game in the second half versus the 1 in the first. And then I had the City team total over 1.5 at -145. That snuck up to like -180 before the game started. We snuck out in this game, but I'm happy to be back in the green. So, and one comment I do want to say, I am happy that we're able to now argue who is actually the heart and soul display of the game, because we used to always say, oh, I would say like the fans were the heart and soul juice. So actually, now that we have some options of guys that actually touched the soccer ball yesterday, is exciting to talk about. So go to souljuice.com, use code ballwatching for 20% off. You can get a Schnucks, Deerbergs, Mobile on the Runs, anywhere around St. Louis. Get your Soul Juice while the weather is nice.
Agreed. So let's talk post-game presser, Justin, and we'll get into magic number and just kind of wrap out the show here with some final thoughts. But I thought it was important to just double back down on the Jake Nerwinski of it all. But I took some quotes from the press conference here, and I got him saying, "This has been the most disappointing and frustrating years of my career. I don't feel like I got chances, but Hack gave me that chance today, and I took it. And when you have 2 kids, that's all the motivation you need. We're really coming together right now. I know it's not too late to go out and play and beat the team in the West now is huge. The guys that have come in the summer are incredible, not just on the field. I've been waiting 7 months to start an MLS game at right back. I was trying to take my opportunity, and today I tried to show whoever needed to see that because I have a lot left in me. Take that, inject that in my veins. I love that attitude. This is an MLS journeyman. And he has been so far down the depth chart, underneath Watts, underneath Totland, underneath whoever you want to call out in that position. We've seen him play center back this year, and he's been crapped on. And we've done a little bit of that as well. But to have a player that believes in himself and takes himself that seriously, and you know he's been grinding his tail off in training, finally gets a fresh little start underneath Hack. Hack takes that flyer on that and gives him a start in one of our biggest games left of this season. Kudos all around. That's a hell of a storyline. So I do want to give a huge pat in the back to Jake. I'm hoping that we're just seeing this side of him, and he's going to dial in for the season and plug and play with Toland. Who's ever feeling it, or maybe based on the match, I would love to see a competition at right back.
It seems like the locker room vibes are back, Jake, and I think that has a huge testament for Hack right there. And I will say another thing that I really appreciated about Hack in this one, like we talked about, was the in-game management of this game. I thought it was a strong starting 11 to go with from the start. However, when we do need to make adjustments, he made them. Bringing on Thor, Joao, and Jay Reed in the 65th, we get a goal 3 minutes later. Hack's like, okay, now what are we looking for? And I think he saw Toyer getting a little bit tired, getting a little leggy, brings in Rasmus Alm in the 75th. And then also doing what he can to try to close this game off as well was bringing in Jake Gerwood-Reich in the 90th +4, just to take a little additional time out of this game for Edu Löw in there. And I think Hack did an overall great job with this game from the starting 11 all the way through to the final whistle.
Agreed. I thought he had some good tactical adjustments. We had a really defensive back line, which I thought actually worked out really well. We didn't give up possession very cheaply. The defense looked a lot more sturdy. We talked about the mid-block already. Even Durkin's positioning kind of shifted even a little bit more centrally to just sit as a triangle kind of right in front of Hebert and Kessler. But I pulled a couple comments from him heading into to the post-game presser here, and that was that coming off of last week, the coaching staff really put the team through a lot of work. We needed collectively to fix things. They didn't flinch one bit. The group continues to believe in themselves. I don't think it means we are back. We still have things to improve. I know those guys can do that game in and game out. Let's not act like this isn't expected. We believe we could do this. And then the next step is to continue. You have to believe in yourself. I'm satisfied this week, but I don't think this is the end of it. We want more. Everything that everyone's saying feels a hell of a lot different and a lot better than the things they were saying even a month, maybe even 2 months ago. It's just, I feel like we're all rowing in the same direction finally. There's just an aura around this team where you said it, Justin, I think they believe again. I really do think they believe again. And the odds are against them, and you're going to talk us through it here in a second. But they believe in themselves. They believe in each other. And you cannot replace that culture. Like, that is such a foundational piece of any team that is remotely successful. So I'm glad to see that we're working that out.
Yeah, I'm going to bring us into the magic number, Jake. But as I do that, I'm going to mention in our interview that we'll drop this week as well, the guys believe me that they believe. They are telling it, and they are still going for it because it still is possible. And I do think that it's still a slight possibility. So looking at the specifics of it, we have 27 points with 7 games remaining. Obviously, we are not getting in the top 4, or I don't even think that we're going to be getting into the top 7. So we're really fighting for this wildcard spot. So what would we need for a wildcard spot? The magic number calculation has us needing 19 points. That would have us finish with 46 total points. So 19 points in 7 games means that we should have 6 wins and a draw. If we get a loss, we get 18 points. I think we can maybe sneak in with 45 points, but I really don't want to be relying on that. So It's going to be an uphill battle for the guys. But positive note, Jake, we were just talking about it. Look at our upcoming games. Yes, we're on the road at New England. However, they're 13th in the East. They have 15 losses so far this season. Then we come home against a Minnesota team that is now currently in the spot that we want, the ninth spot. So they're going to be battling for it. However, a very winnable game in a team that we're playing at home, and we are strong at home. We'll take on Minnesota later in the season as well. So beating them in both of those games is key for us to be able to move up that ladder. And then we go to San Jose, the worst team in the MLS with 20 losses so far this season. So It's optimistic. Is it going to be a tough uphill battle? Yes. However, you're telling me. And so I think that this team can do it, and the guys also. I think everybody needs to maybe we can kind of temper it. Like, all right, do we really think there's a chance that we're going to make playoffs? It's very unlikely, but there's hopium. Yes, sir, JT.
Yeah, no, and just the fact there's a chance is enough for me right now. And just to continue this and live in that, I am so in for it. And there's going to be heartbreak on maybe at some point, but I'm not ruling it out, man. I mean, is this going to be an uphill battle? Abso-freaking-lutely. But we have the schedule to do it. In my opinion, let me just summarize. This is in our control. This game against Minnesota, even like, let's not look past New England. Obviously, we have to go just we haven't done all season, and that's win away from home. So we will be there on hand to witness that game and to cheer the boys on. So absolutely to that one. Minnesota's a 6-point game. I mean, they're in a spot that we want right now. So if they win that, obviously that gap gets even bigger. But if we win it, that's a direct opponent for us right now. And so we're picking up 3 points and they pick up nothing, obviously. So there's 6 points at play just between us and Minnesota. So again, this is all in our control. There's not many home games left, of course, but you're going to have to go out and earn it. And again, Justin, to double down on what you said, you all will hear it straight from the horse's mouth come the interview release this week, and you're going to love who this horse is. But the guys believe, like authentically believe. This isn't like, oh, we believe in the team and blah, blah, blah. It feels real. Like it feels tangible. So that's why I believe, right? Like if I didn't think that they actually believed, maybe we'd be kind of pivoting a little bit more into the next season or just kind of working on, new guys and chemistry here. But like there's a legit shot. We just went out and beat number 1 team in the Western Conference. I'm not saying they should be the best team, but you know what? You got to beat who's in front of you. And now we have to do that again for the next 7 games.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. We're trying to make the playoffs. This is essentially already the playoffs. So we are in a time period where we cannot be dropping points, and we have very little margin for error. So we got to beat the teams that we need to beat, and I think we can do that going forward with this schedule that we have. So looking at it also, you got to look at around the league. So what are other teams doing? Because that's going to obviously change where we need to fall. Helpful for us was that Seattle, who's currently in 8th, FC Dallas, who's in 11th, and Austin, who's in 10th. All lost this past weekend. Not helpful for us was that Minnesota beat San Jose 2-1, and Houston who's in the 7th spot, also got a dub. However, that's more teams that lost than won that are currently taking in positions that we're looking to move up into. So it's looking forward for us. I'm excited. Jake and I are going to be going up to Boston this week, shipping up to Boston, and we're going to be watching the Red Sox on Friday night, and we're going to go watch Tim Parker and the Revs take on City on Saturday night at Foxborough, and I could not be more excited.
God, it's so fun to be now in a situation where every game means this much to us. I mean, every game's a knockout. Every game's a final. Every game means a hell of a lot to us. But I do think, and I'm going to put our staple on it, I think yesterday was our marquee win of the season so far. That was a massive W. We've beaten some pretty crappy teams in our limited wins this season, but you got the business done. You had the bulletin board set up, and the boys went out and did a job. And now you're going to have to find that same success and tap back into it each and every game remaining on our schedule. And you know what? I think we have the team to do it. So let's channel that energy for today on this beautiful Labor Day. And I think you heard it from us. We believe in this team. I hope that you all do too. And we'll be back this week with a interview that we're looking to release. Date-wise, stay tuned. I promise we will get it out as soon as we have it. It will be a high-quality video, long-form interview with a lot of questions that are very, very revealing and really help you get to know this player in a much more intimate way. So I think you all are going to really enjoy it just as much as we did doing it. I think we felt a good amount of fulfillment in being able to share the floor with this person for a while and get to hear their story from their point of view.
And I can tell you right now, this is hanging up in his bedroom right now. Everybody get on the Ted Lasso train. We are believing in this team. He believes in it. We believe in it. The team is going places. We're going to make a push here. It's going to be exciting.
Awesome. Well, you hear from us once more this week, obviously with the interview, and then probably a lot more later in the week as we get wheels down in Boston, get the boys settled, and we are boots on the ground rooting this team to the first away win of 2024. Heard it here first. Everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Make sure you throw us a like or subscribe if you're listening here on YouTube. If not, on Apple, Spotify. Throw us a rating or review and let us know how you're liking the show. We are in the final stretch here. It's going to be electric, and everyone, let's cross those fingers and hope for the best. But in the meantime, all for City.
All for City.